You are watching A News. I'm Bakhtiar Asanov, and let's see the top stories. 65 people injured in a missile strike on Sumy, which coincided with talks between US and Russia on resolving the conflict in Ukraine. Israeli strike kills another senior Hamas official, Hamas-affiliated media reports. Pope Francis expresses gratitude for the steps taken toward peace between Azerbaijan and Armenia, labeling the progress as a sign of hope. Russian missile strike has hit a residential area in the Ukraine's northeastern city of Sumy. The attack has left dozens injured. Authorities say the strike targeted a densely populated neighborhood, causing significant damage.
According to the Sumy Regional Prosecutor's Office, Russia launched a missile strike on a residential quarter of Ukraine's Sumy city earlier today. The attack, which hit a densely populated area, resulted in widespread destruction and panic among residents. Local officials have reported that 65 people sustained injuries, including 14 children. Emergency services rushed to the scene to provide medical assistance, and hospitals in the city are currently treating the wounded. Authorities have confirmed that several apartment buildings were damaged in the strike, along with an educational institution. Images from the scene show shattered windows, collapsed walls, and debris scattered across the area. After the attack, Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha said that instead of making hollow statements about peace, Russia must stop bombing our cities and end its war on civilians.
The strike coincided with talks between US and Russian officials in Saudi Arabia, aimed at making progress towards a broad ceasefire in Ukraine. Washington is hoping for a Black Sea ceasefire deal before securing a wider agreement. The talks follow U.S. discussions with Ukraine on Sunday and after President Donald Trump's dialogues with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Russian President Vladimir Putin. However, there is a huge gap in expectations that remain between Washington and Moscow. Ukraine's Defense Minister Rustem Umerov described talks with the United States delegation in Saudi Arabia as constructive and meaningful. Umerov, who led the Ukrainian delegation, shared on social media that key issues, particularly the energy sector, were discussed during the meeting. The talks are part of a broader diplomatic push by U.S. President Donald Trump to bring an end to the three-year war between Russia and Ukraine.
Military equipment.
An Israeli airstrike has hit Gaza's Nasser hospital in the southern city of Khan Yunis, killing at least 5 and wounding several others, according to medics. Footage captured flames burning the exterior sign on the hospital's facade, while thick clouds of smoke billowed from the building. The Israeli military says the strike targeted a key Hamas militant near the hospital, but did not specify the individual. However, the Hamas-affiliated Shehab news agency claimed that the strike killed Ismail Barhoum, a member of Hamas political bureau. Yesterday, Hamas officials reported that a separate strike killed Hamas political leader Salah al-Bardawil. Meanwhile, the Israeli military announced that its 36th Division, which previously carried out operations in Lebanon, is now preparing for potential activity in Gaza. The military says it has begun preparations for operations in the Southern Command. Video footage was released showing tanks being unloaded in a field, accompanied by a caption reading, "Preparations of the 36th Division for operations in the Gaza Strip." After 2 months of relative calm, the situation in Gaza escalated last week, leaving the future uncertain. Canada's new Prime Minister Mark Carney has called for early elections, seeking a strong mandate to confront the economic threat posed by U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs. Carney, who previously served as a central banker, has recently assumed leadership of the Liberal Party and is now embarking on a 5-week campaign.
Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney announced a snap election for April 28th, seeking a strong mandate to address the economic threat posed by U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs. Although the election was originally set for October 20th, Carney hopes to capitalize on a recent rise in Liberal support following Trump's trade threats and the resignation of former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Carney, a former central banker with no prior political experience, secured the Liberal leadership 2 weeks ago by convincing party members he could handle the crisis.
We can control our destiny. We can have a new Canada built by us, for us. We can give ourselves more than any foreign government can take away. And the best way we can deal with this crisis is to build our strength here at home and help people who will be hit hardest by these tariffs. That's the right thing to do. That's the fair thing to do. That's the Canadian thing to do. That's what makes us strong. As part of that strategy, today I'm proposing a middle-class tax cut to help all working Canadians get ahead. We will cut the lowest income tax bracket by 1 percentage point. For a middle-class tax cut that will benefit a two-income family by up to $825 a year.
With 5 weeks to campaign, Carney faces a competitive race. The Conservatives label him an out-of-touch elitist devoted to high spending and question his financial transparency. Recent polls shows the Liberals slightly ahead with 42% support to the Conservatives' 37%, according to polls.
Political tensions continue in South Korea. The Constitutional Court has overturned the impeachment of Prime Minister Han Duck-soo, allowing him to return to office. Following the ruling, security measures in Seoul have been tightened, while parliament members demand urgent action on President Yoon Suk-yeol's impeachment.
South Korea's Constitutional Court has overturned the impeachment of Prime Minister Han Duck-soo, reinstating him as acting president. Following the ruling, political tensions persist in Seoul, with security measures reinforced.
결정에 감사드립니다. 그리고 무엇
I am grateful for the wise decision made by the Constitutional Court. I am deeply grateful to all members of the Cabinet for their dedication during the suspension of my duties. I will address the urgent situations first.
권한 대행과 국무위원들 한 분 한 분께
A heavy police presence was stationed outside the courthouse as Parliament members called for an urgent decision on President Yoon Suk-yeol's impeachment, with the court yet to rule on his case. Opposition lawmaker Shin Jong-hoon called him the leader of the insurrection. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister emphasised the importance of ending political polarisation in the country.
우리 모든 국민들은
I believe that all of our citizens are now firmly raising their voices, saying that we should not be deeply divided by the fiercely opposing political factions. I think there is no longer a left or right. What is truly important, and our task now, is for our country to move forward and develop.
있다고 저는 생각합니다. 오로지 우리나라가
With the Constitutional Court's ruling, Han Duck-soo has returned to office. He was impeached on December the 27th amid tensions with Parliament after refusing to appoint 3 justices to the Constitutional Court.
Turkish authorities have detained 1,133 people since the start of protests, amid growing unrest over an investigation into the Istanbul Metropolitan Municipality, according to Ali Yerlikaya, the Minister of Internal Affairs. Among those captured, individuals affiliated with 12 different terrorist organizations have been identified. The minister added that 123 police officers were injured. The demonstrations were linked to an ongoing probe led by the Istanbul Chief Public Prosecutor's Office. The Turkish Interior Minister stated that authorities would not tolerate any attempts to disrupt public order or threaten national security. Armenia has taken another step toward potential European integration as its Parliament's Commission on European Integration approved a draft law initiating the country's accession process to the European Union. The bill, which is now set for a second reading, has sparked intense political debate, reflecting the country's complex geopolitical position between its existing commitments and the aspirations of part of its population.
The Armenian Parliament's Commission on European Integration has approved the draft law on initiating the process of the country's accession to the EU for a second reading. The decision to include the draft law on European integration in the agenda of the Armenian Parliament's session was taken by a majority vote. As stated during the Commission meeting by its chairman, MP from the Civil Contract Party, Arman Yegoyan, the phrase expressing the united will of the Armenian people regarding the desire to join the European Union will be removed from the preamble of the draft law. According to him, the objectives of the accession process include strengthening democratic institutions, the rule of law, and national security. Meanwhile, MP from the opposition faction, Hayastan, Armen Gevorkyan, asked Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs Paruyr Ovanesyan whether there was an official reaction from the EU to this project. The opposition member of the parliament also inquired as to what measures would be taken to strengthen the country's security, noting that the European Union is not a defence organisation and that security issues of EU countries are discussed within NATO. In particular, he added that the draft law does not specify what is meant by strengthening security, whether it refers to the armed forces or law enforcement agencies. In response to this, Deputy Minister Ovanesyan noted that representatives of Armenia and the EU had held 2 discussions on foreign policy and security issues, and it has been decided to discuss these issues more actively. Armenia, he added, has submitted a second application to participate in the European Peace Facility programme, through which technical support is provided for security issues. He also reminded that, by mutual agreement, the mission of EU observers at the border with Azerbaijan will extend its presence in the country for 5 years. On this, Gevorkyan expressed puzzlement, noting that the peace agreement with Azerbaijan states that third parties will not be present at the border between the 2 countries and that this applies to EU observers. The draft law was proposed by a number of public and political organisations, which collected 60,000 citizens' signatures in support. The Constitution of Armenia allows the parliament to consider draft laws proposed by civil society, provided that at least 50,000 signatures are collected. Earlier, Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan explained that this step does not mean the automatic accession of Armenia to the EU, as such a decision must be put to a referendum. Later, he stated that Armenia feels quite comfortable in the Eurasian Economic Union spearheaded by Russia, is interested in deepening relations with Iran, but at the same time, a certain section of the population wants to have a European option for the country's future.
Joining us now live from Baku, Azerbaijan is Nargiz Mamadova, expert in international relations at STEM Analytical Center. Nargiz, you have been following the internal developments in Armenia as well as Azerbaijani-Armenian negotiations very closely indeed. Armenia's Deputy Foreign Minister recently said that if the peace agreement with Azerbaijan is signed, ratified, and there are signs indicating a stable peace, Yerevan will consider a new mandate for European observers. It's also said the mission's mandate could be extended for another 5 years. What do you make of this?
Thank you for invitation. And first of all, let's specify that the Armenia-EU relations, as I think, now is on a very crucial moment for Armenia and for EU also. It's not only from the perspective of Armenia, it's also from the perspective of EU. If the mission will be withdrawn 100%, it's actually loss of EU, because EU has a strong presence in Armenia. We know about the situation in Georgia. We know the policy of Azerbaijan regarding the EU. So the Armenia is the only, let's say, opportunity, huge opportunity for EU to be stable in the South Caucasus. That's why this mission is very crucial, I will say even paramount, not only for Armenia, but also for EU. The second, as I think, before the signing the peace treaty, the narratives of the foreign policy of Azerbaijan about the peace negotiations and the signing of the peace treaty between Azerbaijan and Armenia say that there can't be any third force in the region, I mean between Azerbaijan and Armenia, because I think that Armenia should have a political will to control their own borders without any third phase. And the second, if we are going to a comprehensive peace, we need to make it sustainable. We need to make it inclusive, but inclusive for both nations, inclusive for the prosperity of South Caucasus, and in this case, how productive and effective will be a contribution of the EU mission. I don't know. We cannot say about the 100 productivity of this EU mission in the border between Azerbaijan and Armenia. Also, maybe there can be any accidents, and of course, Azerbaijan understands the situation beforehand and addresses these even now and even before via the channels of the Minister of Foreign Affairs or via the speeches of the President of Azerbaijan in Hamadiyya.
Nargis, thank you for sharing your insights with us. We appreciate your time and expertise. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi started his official visit to Armenia. According to a statement from the Armenian Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesperson Ani Badalyan, Araghchi will hold bilateral talks with Armenian Foreign Minister Ararat Mirzoyan in Yerevan on Tuesday. Araghchi will also meet with Armenia's Prime Minister and other officials to discuss strengthening bilateral relations and recent regional developments. Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ismail Baghai says the visit is carried out as a part of ongoing consultations between Iran and its neighbors. For expert opinion on Iranian Foreign Minister's visit to Armenia, we go to a Tehran-based political expert Turaj Shiralilu, who provides insights on the matter.
Iranian and Armenian foreign ministers are expected to meet in Yerevan on Tuesday to discuss a range of issues of interest. A foreign ministry statement here said that they will discuss bilateral ties as well as regional developments. As far as bilateral ties, traditions between Tehran and Yerevan have been traditionally close and friendly. There is a sizable Armenian diaspora living in Iran, and they have their own parliamentary representatives in the parliament or in Majlis. And also trade between Iran and Armenia has been increasing based on recent bilateral agreements, and in 2023 it grew up to 46%. And regional developments, as this statement says, Iran is a regional player in this region. Along with Turkey and Russia, they have rivalry and competition in this region, and they are present in this region. And at the same time, Iran is against any foreign involvement. I mean, by foreign, I mean any extra regional countries in the region and their presence in the region, and always stresses that the regional issues should be settled through cooperation and agreement of regional countries, because sub or ultra regional countries have their own vested interests, and they are not after interests of the regional countries. And in the sub-Caucasian region and in the post-Soviet power vacuum era, it has turned into a very sensitive issue, and this region is, of course, a strategically vital and important region, and Iran doesn't want to see any problem or any crisis in this region, which is neighboring.
Pope Francis has expressed gratitude for the steps taken toward peace between Armenia and Azerbaijan as the two nations move closer to finalizing a peace agreement. The Pope referred to the progress in the South Caucasus as a sign of hope and prayed that it could inspire other conflicts to find resolution through dialogue and goodwill. I'm pleased that Armenia and Azerbaijan have agreed on the final text of the peace agreement. I hope that it may be signed as soon as possible and may thus contribute to establishing lasting peace in the South Caucasus. The statement of the Holy See reads: The government of Azerbaijan formally submitted its instruments of the ratification of the D8 Charter to the Secretariat of the Developing Aid Organization for Economic Cooperation in Istanbul, Turkey on March 19, 2025, officially becoming a full member of D8 organization. Azerbaijan's accession as the 9th member of the D8 is seen as a significant milestone, promising to enhance collaboration and open new opportunities for member states to achieve the organization's goals. Eritrea has released 18 Azerbaijani ship crew members. It's after on November the 7th last year, Eritrean authorities detained 3 ships, which were all operated by the Azerbaijani branch of Caspian Marine Services BV. After prolonged negotiations by relevant Azerbaijani authorities, the crew have all been brought home. According to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, during their time in Eritrea, the Azerbaijani embassy in Ethiopia provided consular support and ensured their needs were met. Uzbekistan is moving into the final phase of its accession to the World Trade Organization. The country has wrapped up talks with major global players like the United States and China, and negotiations are also underway with the EU. Having first applied for WTO membership back in 1994, Uzbekistan now aims to join the organization by 2026. Our correspondent Fariza Kalimurzina has more on that.
Uzbekistan has made significant progress in its negotiations with the European Union on joining the World Trade Organization. According to Azizbek Urunov, the Uzbek president's special representative on WTO issues, discussions have been successfully completed on services, with remaining work on goods expected to be wrapped up in the coming months. Last November, Urunov had mentioned that talks with countries like Russia, the UK and Switzerland were close to finalizing, with only a few issues still on the table. In preparation for its WTO membership, Uzbekistan is also set to introduce new export duties starting July 1st this year. These duties will apply to 86 types of goods, including leather, silk raw materials, semi-finished products, meat and wheat. In a significant move, duties will also be imposed on strategic raw materials produced domestically. This marks a return to export duties for Uzbekistan, a practice that was abolished back in 1997. The goal is for Uzbekistan to finalize its WTO accession before the 14th Ministerial Conference in 2026 in Cameroon. Just last year, the country completed bilateral negotiations with 15 nations, including the United States, China, and Japan, signing a total of 23 agreements. The World Bank predicts that Uzbekistan's eventual membership in the WTO could contribute an additional 17% to its economic growth over the next 5 to 7 years. Turning to foreign trade, Uzbekistan has seen a strong performance early this year. From January to February 2025, the country's foreign trade turnover reached $10.8 billion, marking a 9.9% increase compared to the same period last year. China remains Uzbekistan's top trading partner, making up 20% of the total trade turnover, followed by Russia and Kazakhstan. However, trade with Russia has decreased by 8.3% compared to the same time last year. Meanwhile, trade with Afghanistan has more than doubled, hitting $267 million. From Almaty, Kazakhstan, Fariza Kalimurzina, A News.
Afghanistan's Ministry of Industry and Commerce says the purchasing power of Afghan citizens has increased over the past 12 months, thanks to a rise in foreign trade, which has now reached nearly $13 billion. But experts warn that major challenges remain, especially with a growing trade deficit. For more on this, let's go to Kabul to our Tamim Bahis.
The Ministry of Industry and Commerce announced that Afghanistan's foreign trade reached a remarkable $12.949 billion over the last 12 months. The ministry noted that this significant increase points to a rise in the purchasing power of the Afghan people. The ministry's latest trade figures reveal that Afghanistan exported goods worth over $1.785 billion during the same period. Key export items included figs, cotton, raisins, carpets, lead ingots, and a variety of precious and semi-precious stones. These products found strong markets in countries such as Pakistan, India, the UAE, Uzbekistan, Iran, Kazakhstan, China, Turkey, and Tajikistan. Meanwhile, the nation's imports total a staggering $11.164 billion. Afghanistan's main imports are diesel, fuel, wheat flour, vehicle parts, liquefied gas, cotton textiles, spices, oils, and rice, all crucial for keeping the nation's industries running. In contrast, imports in 2023 amounted to $7.710 billion, while exports in 2023 reached $1.884 billion. Recently, the head of the United Nations Assistance Mission in Afghanistan briefed the United Nations Security Council, reporting that the Afghan economy grew by 2.7% in 2024. While this modest growth is viewed as a positive sign, experts caution that the economy still faces significant challenges, particularly due to the large trade deficit and the reduction in foreign aid. This is Tamim Bahiz in Kabul for A News.
That's all for now. Thank you for joining us and keep watching A News.